man, I understand being a realistic fan, right? I understand because God knows Corey's yelled at me more times than I can count about, trying not to sugarcoat stuff and trying to look at things and be realistic about them. I totally get that. But man, there's a moment where it crosses over, and I don't know if it's a definitive line, but there's a moment where it seems to cross over to just never, ever, ever getting behind the team. Like the team is always wrong. The team is never going to live up to whatever fan expectation you have because you've seen other teams do things. And I think, some of it is, yes, the advent of fantasy football and this idea of roster construction. And of course, the two things are nowhere near similar yet. Now that fantasy football is so ingrained into the sport, people have ideas about players and value and how the draft operates and things like that. And it just kind of all coalesces to this continuous barrage of negativity. And I understand, and Corey kind of touched this on about this on Twitter earlier today, and it got me thinking. It's like you can be a Packers fan and you can absolutely go at the organization. I totally get it. They are not infallible. They make mistakes all the time, and I'm down with it. I got no problems with it. But man, at some point, are you a Packers fan or are you not? You know what I mean? Like, you don't need much more evidence presented to you over the course of the last decade plus, longer for those of us who've been around a little longer, to know how they operate, especially since Ron Wolf walked in the door in the early 90s. Yes, they the general managers in and of themselves have different ways of operation, but you kind of can set your watch by how they're going to operate, whether that's free agency, whether that's the draft, whether that's even in-game stuff. Like, we know what the Packers are about. They're about to embark on a new journey, no doubt about it, turn the page to a new kind of era. But even then, got a coach and a general manager and a cap guy who we know how they operate. And yeah, the circumstances are going to be a little different without a superstar quarterback in the mix, but we know what they're about. So this constant, and I mean constant bitching about they didn't sign this guy or they don't do this or they won't do that. I'm not sure what people expect. I'm not sure where fans are, where they're like, I want the Packers to operate like these 31 other teams. It's never going to happen. That's not who they are. This is your team. Get behind them. Just once, get behind them. And look, I could take this piece by piece. It doesn't really bear kind of getting into the nitty gritty as far as certain arguments and what, specifics about where people seem to always want to bitch about things. But man, could we just ask some folks who seem to always want to be negative about the green and gold, like, man, and I know no one wants to hear Entitled Town and all of that, and I get it, I understand it. But get behind your team. It's your team. I just needed to get it off my chest because it's really been bugging me lately. Like I said, kind of a coalescing of a lot of different subjects, probably kind of a narrative thread that I've noticed kind of through all of it. So, yeah, like I said, nothing specific to lead with today, but that's something that's just been bugging the shit out of me. Like, you know how the Packers are going to operate. You know it. You've watched it. Like, I don't understand what people expect. They all of a sudden expect the Packers to have some kind of different spine, some different skeleton. Like, this is who they are. It's 100 years have led up to this moment. You know who they are. They don't operate like other teams. They aren't like other teams. They're your team. You should know this.